Hey guys, welcome to this episode of Adventures with Bert. My name is Rob, and today we are exploring one of the coolest places on Cape Cod, and that is Race Point. Race Point is located at the very end of Cape Cod. What makes Race Point so special is that it's almost like a bird migration highway. A lot of seabirds go through, such as gulls, terns, geese, ducks, loons, grebes, and anything in between. Snowy owls have been known to come through here, and ravens. We've been getting a lot of strong southerly winds lately because it is spring migration, so we should see a lot of interesting migrants. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Before we start, I'd like to say, it's been a while since I've done a birdwatching episode. This one was filmed back in April 2020. Anyway, some of you may have heard about this bird that's pictured now. If you've ever visited a beach on the Cape, you may have seen more pictures of it on signs than the actual bird itself. Some locals have a love-hate relationship with this little guy, but whatever your feelings are, the piping plover is indeed listed on the endangered species list. It's unfortunate they prefer to nest where most people want to sunbathe. Piping plovers are scattered throughout the Cape during the summer months. These two individuals might be a pair, or they could just be hanging out together. Here we see them in breeding plumage. If you excluded the black bands and darkened their beaks a little, they would pretty much be in winter plumage. Like most shorebirds, piping plovers are strictly migratory. On the Cape, they tend to show up around May and usually leave between late August and late September. But at all points of their life, they like to stick close to the coastline, feeding on all sorts of bugs and invertebrates. You might see them running around in a tizzy sometimes, which is always funny to witness. Race Point has its fair share of waterfowl. Here we have a red-breasted merganser. If you remember in episode 2, I made the mistake of identifying a group of common mergansers as red-breasted mergansers.
These guys right here are red-breasted mergansers.
The main difference between the two is size. The common tends to be much larger bodied. This is a male here. Like most bird species, the males tend to be much more colorful than the females. Like most ducks, red-breasted mergansers like to form groups, which predominantly has to do with the whole safety numbers sort of thing. However, this species has a habit of working together like a pack of wolves. They like fish, and it's easier to catch fish when you have a group of mergs corralling the prey into shallower water. This group here isn't concerned with eating, of course. I don't normally get to see males performing their breeding displays, which is pretty cool to watch. They kind of do this weird bobbing motion, and sometimes the females will respond in a similar way. Next up we have WhiteWinged Scoaders. They're primarily a sea duck, but occasionally you can find them in large lakes. Like mergansers, scoaders will dive for their food. They like shellfish mostly, such as clams. If they're in a pinch, they'll even go after sea urchins. WhiteWinged Scoaders will winter here on the Cape, and can number in the thousands. Usually I start seeing them in mid-August all the way to early June. Sometimes young birds will stay on the Cape through the entire summer and into next winter. If there's no reason to waste energy migrating up north, then may as well vacation along with all the other tourists. Another bird that actively dives for their food, as you just saw there, is the common loon. Loons are very large and built like submarines. And like submarines, they don't take off very well when they try to fly. But underwater, they're very adept swimmers. They target fish mostly. Here's a perfect example of the difference between an adult loon and an immature loon. Yes, I know what I said. Laugh all you want. Actually, the word loon speaks to the ominous yodel sound they make at their breeding grounds. Check in the description below a link that will bring you to a site showcasing their classic, albeit haunting, sound. And here's a better example of the size difference between this loon and these cormorants. Northern gannets are probably one of the most entertaining birds to watch when they dive for their food. Unfortunately, I did not capture them feeding, but they are always on the wing in search for food. This one flying low is an adult gannet. They're quite large and heavy-bodied, so it takes some effort to get airborne. Adults are easy to distinguish even from afar. They're mostly white with black wingtips. At first glance, they look like white pencils. Immatures, like this one, can be confused with other species of seabirds. Usually they can be best distinguished by their semi-floppy and relatively shallow wing beats. Gannets eat anything that moves close to the surface, like sand eels, other baitfish, and squid. Now on to gulls. Race Point is hands down the best place on the Cape to see all sorts of gulls. This white one here is an Iceland gull. We'll see more details on him a little later. Great blackback gulls are very common and are the largest of the gulls to show up in our waters. This one is undergoing a molt into adulthood. This one here is an immature blackbacked. The best way to tell is by this one's overall messy appearance. Gulls tend to go through different cycles in their lives. There are first winter birds, such as this one. Second winter birds are halfway between first winter and an adult, as we saw previously. Lastly, there is adult plumage, which will toggle between breeding and non-breeding forms during specific times of the year, like winter and summer. This is a laughing gull in full breeding plumage. Here you can see the size difference between it and the much larger blackbacked gull. Laughing gulls get their name based on how they sound when they call. A very common gull at Race Point during fall and spring, these birds love what the Cape offers for food. But during the breeding months, they stick close to the coast and in the company of terns and other gulls. Some birds have very subtle rosy washes underneath their bellies, like that one. But the most distinguishing features on these birds are their deep red bills, white spectacled eyes, and charcoal black heads. I'm going to leave you guys with a cool feeding frenzy I came across, featuring most of the birds I talked about. See if you can identify the Iceland gulls I mentioned earlier.
Thanks for joining me today, guys. I hope to see you in the next video. Remember to subscribe, click notifications, and smash that like button. And that's pretty much all I got for you guys today. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Happy bird watching.